The Fed15 podcast is presented by Serving Those Who Serve, a financial planning practice serving federal government employees and retirees all over the country. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be taken as financial advice. All listeners should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. The opinions expressed by our hosts are their own and do not reflect the views, policies, or position of either Raymond James or Serving Those Who Serve. Securities are offered through Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services are offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc. Serving Those Who Serve is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services, Inc.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Fed15 podcast presented by Serving Those Who Serve. Each week, we'll discuss the latest news and info that feds need to know in 15 minutes or less. So whether you are a seasoned federal employee or whether you're just starting out in your career, Fed15 has got you covered. So grab your coffee, kick back, and we'll tell you what you need to know but might have missed in the federal space this week. We are, as always, your hosts. I am Katelyn Murray, and I am joined by a very dark-visaged Mr. Dan Sight.
Yeah, I'd warned last week, Katelyn, that I was watching the rhetoric coming out of Congress, and I'm starting to hear this. So if they don't do this, we'll do this, and that, then that means they want to shut down the. No. Okay, shutting down the federal government is not a legislative lever. It's not. Stop doing it. Okay, it's craziness that came in the last decade or so. Doesn't make any sense. Your job is to pass appropriations to fund the government. You're going to disagree. It's a two-party system. If you don't feel that you are getting heard, if you don't feel that the other side is working collaboratively, you have an option. It's called an election.
Yeah.
Okay. Beat the pavement, get out there, outwork them, put somebody else in their spot. But you don't get in here and shut down the government, lay off feds, okay, furlough them because you're disagreeing about something. So knock it off.
Yeah,
that's all I got to say on that.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging. I think, it's been a tough year for feds already. There's a lot going on.
Yes.
Getting laid off isn't going to necessarily make it better. So, hopefully we won't have you in your black shirt for too long.
I have the pink one hanging right next to it.
Yeah.
And I'm a man of my word. I've proven it. You sort it out. I put the pink one on. So let's keep Dan in the pink.
Yes. Hopefully we'll be looking rosy next week.
From your lips to God's ears.
Today's episode, really interesting. We have a great article that Dan's going to go over. Really exciting on the TSP crossing a major threshold. And Dan's going to talk about that, a bright light there for feds, but also some, words of caution around that. And then I have an article that's a little bit less rosy, a little bit less bright on the cancellation of the annual survey. So we're going to talk about that a little later. But Dan, talk to us about TSP and this big threshold here that we've crossed.
Yeah, it beat my estimates. I was projecting by 2027. And then we've had some very robust markets. So the TSP has crossed the $1 trillion mark for total assets. So all the feds together, all their assets there, TSP is now over 1 trillion. Which makes it the largest defined contribution plan in the world. Period. All stop. And so that's a fantastic milestone. A couple of things subsumed within that. The share price of the C fund topped $100 a share for the first time, and that's due to growth. So that is a good thing. That is not a recommendation to put all your money in C fund.
No.
Okay. Let me be clear. Okay.
No. I fund with that over 20% return year to date. I'm just saying, everybody who fought me on iFund.
you know, so that is good news. That is not a weather vane pointing where you should go. Mm-hmm. So, in so many ways, the growth reflects that Fed's been putting money away, giving it the opportunity to compound and some strong market performance. Now, one of the things, and I'll come back to this again, believe me, this is a world in which I walk. This type of news breaking, because it made it into the general sphere of knowledge, I can hear sales managers at insurance companies and financial firms beating their fist on the desk saying, $1 trillion, why aren't we getting our part of that? Okay, I'm dead serious. And you are probably hearing from more financial people than you ever encountered in your life. And a whole lot of them went out and they got their sheep's clothing. Okay, it's like, hey, we do Fed stuff. The pop-up Fed experts that I've seen, Katelyn, this year, unprecedented. Okay, and I'm seeing people that have been doing it for years. And then when I go to their website, I find it started in 2024.
Yeah.
But that's, I guess technically that's years, because 2024 is a year and 2025 is a year. So just be aware that you're gonna get some additional attention, but it may not be love. So just be mindful of that. So getting back to all the good news. Yes, this is awesome. Obviously the low cost investment structure has contributed to that. The fact that there's a simple plan structure has contributed to it. Agency matching contributions have certainly contributed to it. So this actually took place in June. We crossed that threshold. So it's 1.006 trillion with over 7.2 million participants. Okay, so what that's saying to me, remember, folks, this is also military. So there's a whole lot of people that are taking advantage of this. Now, this next one is one that I'm not that wild about, and that's that the average balance is 134,000. Need to get that up. I'd like to see our feds, come to our site, learn stuff, follow the best practices. Let's see if we can't keep working on that to get that up, closer to like $250,000, because I recognize that's also got our new feds in there, so that's building up slowly and that type of thing. Now, subsumed within that is CSRS people and everything else. The average balance for FERS, a little bit closer to what I'd like to see. That's 196,000. So we're getting there. I'd like to see that average get leveraged up. So folks, educate yourselves. Check out my January Jump article.
Yes.
Yes. So you remember each year. So what does it mean to you? That type of size does help TSP keep costs low and makes it a more resilient plan. Now, one of the things, unfortunately, is TSP's reality is the only way they have to get the money to run things is primarily through the expense ratios of the fund. There are two other things like forfeitures, the folks that don't last at least 3 years and their matching contributions come back, and something called securities lending, which I'm not going to spend time on. They can contribute to that, but it's primarily the expense ratios. And as TSP invests more and more in making it a secure place, so making sure that bad actors can't hack and take your money, they have to spend money on that. So, but the size does help, and it's really a bit of a testimonial. So this type of milestone shows that long-term investing works. Because it's funny for me, Katelyn, with all of these pop-up people. Almost 40 years ago, when I started doing it, it's like, so you're talking to feds? Why?
Yeah.
Yeah. And FERS was new, TSP was new, but the need for strategy wasn't. Okay, so it wasn't, hey, you have money, so I'll help you. There's something you need to know. So that's why we're founded so many levels. So a couple of things to come out from this. Okay. Since we're bringing up TSP coming into the fourth quarter, check your contribution levels. Okay. Make sure that you're going to maximize this year. Also, make sure that you're not going to over contribute and miss the last 2 weeks of the year or last 2 pay periods of the year, because then you miss your match. And we've got plenty of articles on that. If you don't fully understand that, hit us up, send us an email. We'll explain it to you. So stay invested, have an allocation, okay, and keep contributing for your future self. And you can be a part of the $2 trillion number. And we'll get there. So we're pulling for you. Be careful who you talk to.
We'll link that January Jump article that Dan wrote, because it is really impactful. It's about, how you can boost your TSP balance over time without feeling the burn so much. Because I know at the same time, markets are doing well, TSP is growing, but also inflation has been high the past couple of years. The prices of everything, it feels like, are going up, up, and up. So I get it. I get that, like, the concept of putting more money into TSP might be hard. Dan's article has some really great advice on how you can kind of strategize around that and do it in a way that is maybe a little bit less painful.
Yep.
But it is very systematic and will kind of, help you squirrel away a little bit more. Another article that we'll link, we have a great piece on figuring out your TSP investment allocation and learning a bit more about the funds. No blanket recommendations. You guys know, if you're a regular listener of the podcast, that we don't do that. But there is some additional kind of context around that. And we'll try to link both those articles in the show notes for today's episode. So
absolutely. So
TSP
Katelyn,
crossing $1 trillion. That's something to be excited about.
Tell us about the Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey. What's going on with that?
Yeah. What survey, Dan? So
good answer.
Yeah. So the Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey is an annual survey. If you've been a Fed for any amount of time, I'm sure that you're familiar with this survey. It is an annual survey that is designed to help give Feds a voice on leadership, workload, morale, and engagement. And the results of this survey inform agency management decisions and oversight by Congress. And this is kind of part of the rhythm of life as a Fed, right? The survey comes out, you answer it, you send in your answers. Hopefully that informs management decisions. I have seen a lot of talk about this survey, especially in the wake of, what I'm about to tell you about. A lot of folks think, they don't listen to it anyway. Collecting the data, giving Feds a voice, recording the data is really important, even if we don't necessarily get the things that we voiced in the survey that we want, right? So that's kind of just, what I'll say on that, because I've heard a lot of it doesn't get listened to anyway. Here's what's happened recently. OPM for this year in 2025 has canceled the Federal Employee Viewpoints Survey. This is the first cancellation of this survey ever, right? The reason that was cited is that they are revising the survey to remove some of the diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility questions in order to better align them with current administrative goals. So the result of this decision is that there will be no government-wide snapshot of federal employee sentiment for 2025. Here's why this should matter to you. For agencies, they will lose a key tool in measuring their morale and engagement, right? For employees, they will lose an anonymous system-wide channel in which to raise concerns.
Absolutely.
And for oversight, this is going to create a gap in tracking government-wide workplace trends. We often do articles here at Serving Those Who Serve because Feds are, we live, breathe, and bleed Fed. And so every year when the survey comes out, we write an article about it and we talk about, what did the survey find? And most of the time it's fairly positive. So the lack of that is really kind of turns 2025 into a black hole as far as federal employee sentiment that is collected in an unbiased, anonymous way, right? This has got ripple effects on career. Often the Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey can influence pay incentives, retention strategies, workload management. If management does not know that there's a problem, they can't fix that problem, right? even here within our own system, right? I always tell folks who, report to me, I want to know if there's a problem, because if I don't know there's a problem, then I can't help you with the problem, right?
Absolutely.
So this is an issue. Without this data, it's much harder to gauge agency health, stability, or workforce stressors, and that's a concern. So what can we do? Look out for your agency-run pulse surveys. Make sure that you complete them. I know it's one of those things. Everybody's busy. Everybody's got 10,000 things to do. But if the participation rate of those agency-run pulse surveys increases, that will be a data point as well, as a result of the Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey being canceled, right? So look out for those. Look out for internal engagement tools that you can use. Share your input via HR channels, unions, employee networks. Keep your personal, financial, and career plans flexible. I mean, I think that's the lesson that all feds have learned in 2025, right? Stay flexible, right? And have a plan in place that allows you, to be flexible, right? I think it is very unfortunate that this survey has been canceled. We're going to have a gap in workplace data. We're going to lose the ability to give anonymous employee feedback for this year. I know that the federal community is still a close one. It is a small world. So, people will continue to talk and to kind of, we see the message boards as well.
Absolutely.
I think it's a shame that feds aren't being given an opportunity to give feedback, particularly in a year when there's an awful lot of feedback to be given, quite frankly.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, and that is just about the nicest way that I can say that. So
you handled that very well.
It's, and we say this all the time. I know we've said it on the podcast before. We're not red. We're not blue. We are Fed, right? It's not a political sentiment. It is just, I don't like when people mess with feds, right? And we have seen an awful lot of messing going on with, everything, that was experienced earlier this year with DRP and with, accountability and with, early retirement offers and things like that. And the villainization of the civil servant as a character in the narrative. To me, these civil servants are not, and to all of us at Serving Those Who Serve, these civil servants are not characters in any kind of narrative. They are people with dreams and goals and challenges. And we know all of those intimately because we're the ones who help with the planning. And so to now see the mechanism that is supposed to provide an avenue for feedback taken away as well, it's hard. It's difficult. So, but I meant when I said about the agency surveys, please, let's see the participation rate on those go up. And that's a data point as well, right? That tells the story too.
Absolutely.
So,
and this too shall pass.
Yep. So hang in there. I know it's a little bit of a downer note to end on, but our job is to keep you informed, right? We got to cover the hills and the valleys.
Yep. But also remember, you're not alone.
Yep.
So that's all the time we have for today, folks. But we will absolutely, positively be back next week, bringing the latest updates you need to know to make an informed decision about your career and financial well-being as a Fed.
Absolutely. And analytics show us that about 3/4 of the people who watch our videos are not subscribed. So while you're here, take a moment to subscribe to the podcast on our YouTube channel so that you never miss an episode. If you're listening on Spotify, subscribe there as well. We love our Spotify folks too. And please remember to share the episode with your friends and colleagues if you found something valuable.
And absolutely. And for a deeper dive, for more information on the topics we covered today and more, check out the blog. It's going up every single week, blog.stwserve.com, and subscribe to our newsletter, The Weekly Serving. Then we ship it all to you. You don't have to go looking for it. Lands right in your inbox every single week.
For sure. And if you want to learn even more about your federal benefits, if you are serious about getting everything that you can out of your benefits, which we want you to do, we encourage you to join us for one of our complimentary webinars. We have some great webinars coming up. Middle of October, we are having a tax planning session, October 16th. That'll be from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. I will be hosting that one with our presenter, Ed Zerndorfer. And Dan will be hosting a session the very next day on financial planning for feds. It is a great place to get a start. I think tax planning is a good one if you want to be shocked, if you want to learn something that's like, oh my gosh, I did not know that. Financial planning is a great jumping off point. If you've never had a webinar with us before, join us for financial planning. We'll kind of touch on a lot of different topics.
Absolutely.
And it's a good kind of taster, a charcuterie board, if you will, of financial planning for feds. That'll be on October 17th. From 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And Dan is going to be hosting that session. If you prefer a one-on-one approach or you're looking for a trusted partner in financial planning, reach out to our team directly for a financial planning consultation at meetings@stwserve.com.
We're standing by. So folks, thank you so much for once again listening to Fed15. I'm Dan Sipe.
And I'm Katelyn Murray.
And we will see you next week.